Hey sis, I'm Samira. We're at the Fight Club. Let's go fight. I don't want to sweat. That's the whole point. I cannot sweat.
Oh, you're gonna sweat.
No, I'm not. Oh, you don't know. I'm not doing none of that.
All right, so the first thing you're gonna do is you're just gonna move.
I'm so... By the time I get to box some stuff, I'm done.
The Fight Club is really, it's just raw and rigorous. So what we did is we created a 14-week program. So this is a contained program where we bring women who are survivors of trauma, and they do boxing, yoga, and group therapy within the 14 weeks.
I love it.
When people come on the mat, you can actually see how their day went. So if they've had a really crappy day and they get on the mat, by the time they're off the mat, the world changes.
So this whole program is about transformation. It is about that journey.
How do you do all this? Amazing work.
It starts with an amazing team. We have a board that I love. You never can do something like this by yourself, right? So Joel's actually on our board. He's offering this space to us at no cost. He teaches at no cost, and then we have our yoga and our group therapy here. And so it really has been like magic.
So if this comes, go, strike. See, again, loosen up.
Oh,
see,
I'm so tense.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
You need just to be loose. See?
Okay.
In its slowest form, it's like, that's it. See right there. Cool.
Oh.
Don't come here to work out. Like, this is a program. There are tasks that we are doing. So our structure is there's some type of movement attached with some form of therapy, and then there are exercises that we build in the middle of it to help you heal.
A jab's only
with the left hand, okay.
Right. This is going to be the cross right there.
We come from a community that mental health is a stigma, or dealing with trauma, or we don't like talking about mental health or abuse or trauma or none of those things. But mental health is a big deal because we've seen kids in our community going through a lot of things with mental health, and they don't know how to deal with that trauma. What is trauma?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question because we're not taught in school what trauma is. When it comes to trauma, you know, there's a statistic that says that 1 out of 2 Americans will experience some type of trauma in their lifetime. And when it comes to trauma, there are different types of trauma. It could be the loss of a loved one. It could be the loss of a friend. Then there's interpersonal trauma. And interpersonal trauma is where you've endured trauma because of something that someone has done to you. And then that results in PTSD symptoms. They'll manifest in different ways. Like, you could be walking your dog and all of a sudden you have flashbacks to something that happened to you and it paralyzes you. Or, you know, you become really emotional and you start snapping at people, or it might affect you in ways where you don't understand. Because unreconciled trauma takes its toll on the body. But there are various types of trauma, and interpersonal trauma is what we work on here.
I wanted to talk to you about domestic violence in our Muslim community. Is it harder for us, for Muslim women, when they escape, like, you know, the abuser, or they escape that bad situation? Is it hard for them to find resources?
Many of the Muslims in this country, like my age, are first generation,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So what we're dealing with the violence within homes is it's intergenerational trauma. And so a lot of times once we come into this country, we're born in this country, we're not connecting the dots.
Yes.
But similar to what slavery did to the Black community, and how we are still seeing repercussions of that to this day.
Yes.
You see that within all the various cultures. You see how trauma manifests and how intergenerational trauma, how it compounds.
Yes.
The problem is within the Muslim community is that you don't often see women who leave to get that help. So whether it's a language gap, whether it's an optics issue, right? They're scared of what people will say.
Oh, yeah.
Our culture uses that tagline to bury you, right? What will people say is always the first thing that's top of mind. So if you don't have a response to that, you can't do anything else. Those who leave, typically they are unable to lean on their own community, right?
Yes.
Because they become ostracized, particularly if they are women. How could you leave him? Right? He will spread lies. He will have the upper hand because it is a patriarchal community.
Yes, it is.
And so she will be unable to lean on friendships and relationships from the community. So that isolation enough is enough to create recidivism where she goes back.
Yes.
Now she keeps pushing forward. There are obviously resources here, but she will more than likely will have to let go of that past life to start over if she's an immigrant woman. Now, women of our generation, those who were born and raised here, they're able to put the money together, put the puzzle pieces together and figure it out, and they're out,
yes.
right? So that is really what we start to see, is this evolution in how women are starting to care for themselves and demanding their own freedom and their own happiness.
Yes.
But it's definitely a challenge because our culture does not value individual happiness, it values collective.
So, Sana, tell me about what has really moved you about all this journey that you've had with Kimia.
So, I started my career as a news anchor and a reporter, and then I became a government spokesperson. So I was with the city of Dallas during the Ebola crisis, and then in 2016 we had the protests. So, going through that whole journey, I had my master's in journalism, and then after that incident, I finished my PhD in urban planning and public policy. So really, my background is in policy, and we wanted to create Kimia to create the documentaries to help us advocate for human rights policy that we really care about. But then this is the side of the house that really helps us touch the trauma, right? And actually heal, so that it's not simply the policy piece of it, but actually service and connecting with survivors so that we're helping them in that way as well.
So you got your jab cross, hook, then you got a knee. Hey. That transformation from the very first day is really pretty simple because they come in, they're gun shy, they're timid about everything. You know that there's something that they're carrying. And so probably about the third class, they're starting to let loose. They're starting to let the burdens just wear away. The stress seems to disappear. You build this confidence. It is true confidence. It's not confidence that you talk about. It's a confidence that you actually exhibit on the mat.
When we started this program, I was having full-blown anxiety attacks. I was not sleeping, and a lot of that is because I didn't want to fail them. Mm-hmm. Because going to people and asking them to be vulnerable with us, to share their story with us, that is a big ask. And then to care for them and hope that you do right by them so that they come out on the other end shining. The women, they still have their obstacles. The women come into this program and they move on and they still have their challenges, but the difference is that they've helped themselves by creating the sisterhood, and we equip them with the tools to change their response to PTSD and trauma. And so when something happens, a lot of them have said that they're not as quick to anger, that they actually think through how they want to react to something, which is key. That is rewiring the brain. You're giving your rational brain an opportunity to respond to a situation instead of the emotional brain leading, right? Within our culture, there's a lot of cultural stigma about sharing your trauma, right? So growing up, my parents would be really worried about, if this gets out, nobody's gonna wanna marry you. And I was like, man, that stings, that this defines my self-worth. And that's really hard to process as a child.
Yes.
And I know I'm not the only child that had to go through that,
no,
right?
You're not.
So we start to feel the shame and the guilt, and we process all that. And as South Asians, what we do culturally is we create so much competition. And so many of us have become doctors and lawyers and engineers coming to this country, and we built ourselves up, and literally we will see ourselves and say, I really haven't accomplished that much, right? And so what that does is when you see other successful women, you're like, well, I can be better than her. And so this whole journey, what it's shifted in me is when I see another woman, I don't see a competition, I don't see a threat. I see someone who has probably gone through some real shit, and she made it. Whether it was, sexual abuse, whether it was rape, whether it was domestic violence, whether it was infertility.
Oh, that's a big deal.
Right?
Yes.
Whatever, women go through so much. And so
miscarriages.
My miscarriages, from my vantage point now, I see women and I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of you. So that is, to me, what's changed. Is we do this to ourselves and to women when we're oh, she's so pretty. And because we are taught that we're never good enough. And so healing is really to look at another woman saying, I'm so proud of you.
It's very difficult to get women who support you and who want to uplift you. I'm so proud of you, Sana. I don't want to be a competition to you. I want to be an ally with you, right? And an ally for you, right? But it's so difficult to get that as women and who come from our community, in our background. it's so difficult. And then outside too, when you go outside, it's another thing too, because we get beat by other people too.
Yeah.
Because we're Muslims, because we're black, because we're this, because we're that. So sometimes you just want to sit and hide yourself, right? And don't show who you are. So I get it. But we're going to be allies. And I'm very proud of you, Sana.
I'm proud of you too.
I love the work that you've done.
Thank you.
And you're amazing. I don't know why I haven't met you before, you know? And I'm just so proud of you.
Thank
and
you.
I'm so happy that I'm in this space, and I'll be your sister anytime you need me to be. All girls, if you're watching this show, you need to check out Sana. You know, if you want a role model, here she is, you know? Thank you for being in this space. Thank you so much for hosting us today.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye, everybody. See you on our next episode. Bye.